Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our last meeting for the academic calendar year. We'll start with our certification of the meeting. Let me go to the agenda. Okay. Every public body shall give notice of the date, time, and location of its meetings other than special, emergency, or continued meetings at least 3 working days in advance by posting such notice on its official public government website, if any, placing such notice in a prominent public location at which notices are regularly posted, and placing such notice at the office of the clerk of the public body, or in the case of a public body that has no clerk, at the office of the chief administrator. Reasonable notice under the circumstances of special, emergency, or continued meetings shall be given contemporaneously with the notice provided to the members of the policy body conducting the meeting. Ms. Tanner, has today's school board meeting been properly certified?
Yes, Madam Chair. On December 27, 2019, notice was provided fulfilling all criteria VA Code Chapter 37.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tanner. I duly call this meeting to order. Again, welcome to everyone. And also for documentation for our minutes, along with the certification, we have outlined in our board docs why we are having the meeting again via virtual Zoom due to the pandemic noted through the governor's order. And those will be again documented in our minutes. Next item on the agenda, roll call, item 1.03. Ms. Tanner.
Basine?
Here.
Okay. Campson?
Here.
Clanton?
Present.
Jordan?
Here.
Martin?
Will be joining momentarily.
Smith?
Here.
Gabriel?
Here, thank you. At this time, everyone, we have 2 items that have been brought to my attention that I would like to allow the board to amend the agenda for this evening. 2 items that Dr. Birdsong, one of the items that Dr. Birdsong would like to bring to our attention. And after she shares this information with you, I would like to have just a consensus without objection to amend the agenda to add the item that she has brought forward. Dr. Birdsong.
Good afternoon, Dr. Gabriel, Mr. Clanton, and members of the school board. Thank you for allowing me to make a recommended addition to this afternoon's agenda. As you may be aware, yesterday, Governor Ralph Northam announced that he will make Friday, June the 19th, widely known as Juneteenth, an official state holiday. It's my recommendation that Norfolk Public Schools align its current academic calendar with the governor's decision and our employees be allowed to observe this day as a holiday. It is critical that we recognize the significance of this day. As you are aware, Norfolk Public Schools strives to make equality, excellence, equity a reality in our day-to-day operations. Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865, when news finally reached African Americans in Galveston, Texas, that President Abraham Lincoln had issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the enslaved living in Confederate states 2.5 years earlier. The Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official on January the 1st, 1863, had little impact on Texas due to the minimal number of Union troops to enforce the executive order. Therefore, African Americans in Texas remained enslaved for approximately 2.5 years after this executive order, and that was unconscionable. I believe that the employees of Norfolk Public Schools would like to observe this profound moment in history as their counterparts at the state level will do. Therefore, I am extremely pleased to advance this recommendation. Once again, thank you for allowing me that privilege.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong. If there is no objection, then I would like to amend the agenda without any objection for this matter, and it will be added on at the end of the agenda, noted right after we do our vote for the for the personnel docket. The other item that has been brought to my attention by Mr. Clinton is the VSBA resolution on racial awareness in our education system. Mr. Clanton.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. On June 9th, the Virginia School Board Association sent out to its membering school boards across the Commonwealth an anti-racism resolution and encouraged each board to take it up for consideration and adoption. And so I'm asking that we amend the agenda to include an adoption of the presented resolution regarding anti-racism and that we add that to the agenda.
Thank you. Again, members, I apologize for this notification. However, Dr. Birdsong's matter was very time sensitive and late breaking. And I do believe that the resolution through the VSBA is also timely as well. Is there any objection to amending the agenda?
No objection, but I have a question.
Okay.
I'd like to know if we can also add matters of the board to the agenda as well.
Dr. Gabriel, I personally don't have an objection, just as long as the time that we've had set for the agenda isn't exhausted. If we still have time, I have no objection.
Okay. Does anybody else have an opinion on this?
I second that request.
Okay, so what we'll go ahead and do is we will add item matters of the board at the end of the meeting as long as our time has not been exhausted. Thank you. Now, Dr. Birdsong, I do believe that you have some opening comments.
I do, thank you. Again, good afternoon, Dr. Gabriel, Mr. Clanton, members of the school board, and members of our community. I hope that you're in a frame of mind to celebrate this afternoon. As you know, Friday, June 12th, marked the very last day of school for all students and what had to be the most historic and life-changing year in recent history. There were no dismissal bells ringing, no sounds of school buses starting up for the very last trip home, and most meaningfully, there was an absence of the happy, excited voices of children eager to start their summer vacation. And yet, let's switch our paradigm for just a minute and concentrate not on what we couldn't do or what couldn't be, but on what we were able to accomplish this year. I trust that all board members watched our 5 high school graduations online, which, by the way, garnered about 11,000 views. We had approximately 1,663 seniors from the remarkable class of 2020 who graduated. And I'm pleased to note that this class received a total of $77.4 million in scholarship offers. So I'll say that once more, $77.4 million in scholarship offers. We missed the vibrant cheers of our graduates and their ecstatic family members joyously celebrating at the Chartway Arena. But I'm certain that many homes across Norfolk were filled with families and friends who were passionately celebrating these individual milestones. In addition to the virtual graduation ceremonies that the school division hosted, each high school also hosted graduation events that were extremely well attended and provided students an opportunity to be presented their high school diplomas from their very own building principals. These celebrations were quite touching, and our parents and guardians really appreciated being able to participate in these school-based events. Hopefully, you've seen some of our national or our social media posts about these events. They offered students one more chance to celebrate with their families and to connect meaningfully with their teachers, administrators, and fellow students. I can tell you that a love for all was definitely in the air. And speaking of graduations, this past Friday, drive-by celebrations were held for the graduates of Open Campus. And as you are aware, our students who participated in the Open Campus program chose a different path toward graduation rather than the traditional high school experience. There was a total of 12 graduates from Open Campus in the class of 2020. We captured some photos of their joy on the NPS social media channels. While the virtual traditional graduations took center stage, let's not forget that our students who participated in the Open Campus program also worked extremely hard to obtain their high school diplomas. So in this very public venue, I say congratulations to our Open Campus graduates and best wishes to them as they embark upon the next chapter of their lives. And as next chapters go, as board members and community members, you are all aware that there are some significant ones ahead of us. On Tuesday of last week, Governor Ralph Northam and the Virginia Department of Education issued guidelines to help school divisions design a safe return to school for students and staff for the 2020-2021 school year. The governor informed us that social distancing will be in effect and the wearing of face coverings will be highly encouraged for students as developmentally appropriate, of course, and required for staff when they are not able to maintain the 6 feet of physical distancing. Certainly, transportation for students will look tremendously different when we open in the fall, in accordance with guidance from the CDC to maintain 6 feet of physical distancing between students on school buses. So prior to the governor's announcement, the NPS administration had been working to develop a variety of options for student scheduling and other logistical matters in anticipation of the flexibility that the pandemic will continue to require of us. As I shared with you in a recent newsletter on Monday of this week, the options that are being considered limit the number of students who will be physically attending school on any one day to ensure strict social distancing. When schools reopen, students may attend school on an alternating and or staggered schedule on designated days and or time frames. When students are not physically in school, remote learning options will certainly need to be in place to maintain the continuity of learning and instruction. So rest assured, the administration will not make decisions in a vacuum. In fact, we will be implementing surveys of families so we can gain their valuable input regarding what a blended schedule of in-school and remote instruction should look like. These data will be vital to us as we work to finalize our operational plans. Parents and guardians will receive links to the surveys later this week via email. There will be elementary, middle, and high school versions of the surveys. So this means that parents and guardians with children at multiple school levels will need to fill out more than one survey. So we're asking our families to have a little patience with us on this front. It's important that we have data for each level because parents and guardians may feel differently regarding schedules for their elementary age children than they do for their older children. And we need to understand what the preferred options are for each school level. So we are respectfully asking our parents and guardians to please complete the surveys upon receipt. It is vitally important that we hear from our families. For parents and guardians who prefer to have paper copies of the surveys, they will be available at each school site. So we're asking these parents and guardians to make contact with their child's principal to secure hard copies of the survey. Ongoing communication has been important throughout this pandemic, and it will remain to be critical. Because of the groundbreaking nature of next school year, our families and staff will be hearing more from us over the summer than has traditionally been the case. And on that note of frequent communication, we will keep the school board updated on elements of our operational plans prior to submission to the Virginia Department of Education. Please know we welcome the opportunity to hear your great ideas and will, of course, endeavor to answer questions you may have along the way. However, just as I've asked of our families for the patience, I need to prevail on the school board for patience as well. We do need the courtesy of adequate time to tackle the devils in the details before we begin fielding board questions laced with a high level of specificity. For example, bus transportation will drive, truly, excuse the pun, many of our resulting logistics. The domino effect will be immense. Work groups will be assigned to several areas for efficiency's sake, and effective collaboration in the area of problem solving, it's going to be critically important. So that said, we're committed to working quickly but thoroughly, and there will not be long periods of silence. I can assure you of that. So please stay tuned for additional information regarding our logistical plans. And finally, I want to thank the school board for your invaluable support and guidance throughout the 2019-2020 school year and during the unprecedented time of the closure of schools. I can say with confidence that this year has truly been the most interesting, exciting, and challenging year of my professional career of almost 28 years. And I want to thank you for giving us the room to get the job done, the benefit of questions and suggestions that helped us to refine our practices and decisions, and for serving as a voice of reason and reassurance for your constituents. My staff and I look forward to working for you and with you during the 2020-2021 school year in service for our children as they deserve our very best efforts, always. So thank you. Dr. Gabriel, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birdsong. That was extremely comprehensive. We will now move ahead with our business meeting, item 2.01, adoption of the Title I, II, III, and IV budgets. There is a vote required. Can I have a motion on the floor for the adoption of the Title I, II, III, and IV budgets?
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of the Title I, II, III, and IV budgets as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Campson has seconded. Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? We will open discussion for 2 minutes if discussion is needed.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, and I'm not exactly sure what just happened with my screen here. All right, Karen, hold on a second. Okay. All right, Mr. Jordan, please proceed.
Yes. So I just have a first question for Dr. Birdsong. In looking through the documents, are they all the same as we had at the previous meeting? I thought I may have seen some changes in the Title II. Are they the same?
I'm not aware of any changes that were made. So if changes were made, I'm not aware of any changes that were made.
Yeah, there were some changes made to Title II that were just more of grammar and just kind of making sure, going through them with a fine tooth comb and making sure that everything looked appropriate.
Yeah, it looked like it was more amplified for me in some of the areas, and I was just going to say it would have been it's helpful if we get stuff like that redlined so we can see the differences. But I saw those in Title II, and I wasn't quite sure I saw them in the others, and I just wanted to verify that it's just the Title II one that had the amplification. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. That's a different application from years before. There were multiple changes to that application, so we just wanted to make sure we had all the information for the Virginia Department of Education, so they would be able to approve that.
All right, thank you.
So, and moving forward, Mr. Jordan, I'll make sure that that's made clear. I was not aware of the changes. I certainly would have apprised the board of that,
Thank you.
especially for content changes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Basine?
Are we voting on all of them as collective, or are we going to be voting on them each application?
If you would like for them to be voted on separately, we can tease them out. My intention was to vote on them collectively, but if you have an objection, we can vote on each one individually.
I would like the Title I and Title II done separately, please.
Okay,
All right, so Madam Chair, I don't have an objection to moving those two out because it's a different motion.
mm-hmm. It would be a different motion, but in order to stay within our time limit, I am going to keep an eye on our time that is expressed during the discussion portion. Okay, is there anything else, Ms. Basine?
No, I articulated some of my questions and concerns during the June 3rd, and have also followed up with more detailed questions and concerns, as you know, that were sent via email. And in review of what has been posted, I didn't see, substantive changes to the applications, which is leading me to my decision to not vote in support of the application for Title I and Title II.
Okay,
So I've expressed that too. So
all right, thank you. Any other members wishing to speak on the vote before we take it? Okay, so what we'd like to go ahead and do then, I want to make sure I'm seeing everybody here. Ms. Tanner, are you good with the timer?
Yes, Megan is controlling the timer. Yeah.
Okay, all right, all right.
Left.
Okay, and I see Adele on now. All right, so what I'd like to do then is have a vote first on the Title I budget. So we are having a motion on the, hold on a second.
So,
The
Madam Chair,
motion is amended.
Madam Chair, I said I didn't have an objection with it, so we would just vote on 3 and 4 together.
Okay.
And then vote on 1 and 2 separately.
Okay, that sounds fine. All right, so Ms. Tanner, if you could please call the roll for the budgets for the title grants 3 and 4.
Yes. Basine.
we're doing Title III and IV right now, right?
Correct.
Okay. Aye.
Campson.
Aye.
Clanton.
Aye.
Jordan.
Mr. Jordan, you're
I
muted.
couldn't, you called Jordan?
Yes.
Oh, nay.
Martin.
Ms. Martin, you're muted. Yeah. Aye.
Okay. Smith.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. Can we have so Mr. Glenn, is it correct procedure if I have a motion on the floor to adopt the Title I budget?
I've already made the motion, so we're just doing the affirmative already. We're just taking the actual vote and any discussion additional on 1 or 2.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion then for Title I and Title II? Okay, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine.
Nay.
Campson.
Yes.
Clanton.
What is that?
Some background. Someone needs to mute probably.
Okay. I can hear you.
Carlos, you're muted.
Unmute yourself.
It's not me, but okay. I'm dead.
You wait for your vote.
Oh, I said aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Jordan.
Nay.
Martin.
Oh, that's where it is. That's where it is.
Okay, maybe she's having some audio issues.
Give a thumbs up. Martin said yes. Okay. Smith.
No.
Gabriel.
Aye. The motion carries.
Wait a minute.
Next item on the agenda is,
I
Yes.
just want to make sure. Hey, Jack, because we didn't hear an audible aye from Adele, she did give a thumbs kind of raised hand. Is that okay? Because I know we can't.
Is the problem with our audio uncurable?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear it? Yeah.
I think that I'm getting hosted muting, unmuting, and I'm trying to unmute at the same time, so I don't know if that's causing a conflict.
Just say yes, even with the disturbance, so we can hear it. I think that would be better.
Okay.
Turn your sound down.
Adele, we just need a yay or a nay on the motion.
Yes.
okay,
Okay.
okay. All right. Next item then, item 2.02, the monthly financial reports, Dr. Birdsong.
Good afternoon again, Dr. Gabriel. As the board members are aware, I provided to them in advance financials for March and April. And then today, Mrs. Ingram is here with us, and she will be providing you an overview of these budgets, as well as she's prepared to answer any questions that you will have, along with Ms. Tao. So Ms. Ingram, without further ado, please.
Good afternoon, Dr. Birdsong, Dr. Gabriel, Mr. Clanton, and school board members. Now, I do have what's posted on board docs is 3 monthly statements. So my question is whether you want me to read each of the statements and then there are questions at the end, or do you only want certain ones read?
Ms. Ingram, if you wouldn't mind just highlighting each one, and then we can take questions per month. We can do that. Okay.
Okay, pretty much like I do regularly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. For the Ms. Tanner, if you want to pull them up, I'll be reading the first report, which is for period 8, which is February the 29th. And basically the revenue received as the end of February was $208 million, or 61.2% of our total budget. And it compares to 61.1% for the same time period last year and 61.3% for fiscal year 2018. And then on the expenditure side, we expended $206.9 million, or 60.8% of our budget. And that compares to 58.5% for the same time period in fiscal year 2019, 56.9% for fiscal year 2018. And there is also a summary of budget transfers that were greater than $50,000. Then of course, behind that is just another presentation of showing you the revenue expenses with some explanation of variances for the period of February. Then going to the period of March, which is period 9, revenue received at the end of March was $228.4 million, or 67.1% of the total budget, which compares to 72.1% for the same time period in fiscal year 2019 and 70.6% for 2018. Encumbrances were $221.5 million, or 65.1% of the budget, which compared to 68.9% for fiscal year 2019 and 68.3% for fiscal year 2018. And we also had a summary of budget transfers during this time period that was $50,000 or greater. Then if we move on to Ms. Tanner, the April 30th financial statements. At the end of April, we had received $266.2 million, or 78.2% of the total budget. And that compared to 79.9% for the same time period in 2019 and 78.4% in fiscal year 2018. If we move to the second page, expenditures was $262.8 million, or 77.2% of our total budget. And that compared to 77.8% for the same time period in 2019 and 75.9% in fiscal year 2018. We also had for that time period a listing of budget transfers that were $50,000 or greater for the month of April. And then for the month ending May 31st, which we just finished, revenue received was $295.3 million, or 86.7% of the total budget, which compared to 87.9% for the same time period in 2019 and 88.7% in 2018. And the second page, expenditures and encumbrances totaled $288.2 million, or 84.6% of the total budget, which compared to 86.5% for the same time period in 2019 and 85.5% in 2018. And we also had attached to that a summary of budget transfers that was done during the month of May. That's the high level, what's in the financial statements, and I can entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ingram. We will begin with questions. Ms. Smith?
So what impact has COVID-19 had on our funding? When we look at the revenue, it seems like the revenue is still coming in at the same rate as if there wasn't a pandemic, but we're seeing it on the expense side because expenditures, as they should be, are significantly less. Can you talk about the impact that is having on us, if any, from both a revenue and expenditure perspective? And is the revenue portion of it just delayed? That in the end, we'll see that our actual revenue is significantly less than budgeted because of COVID-19. Do you follow what I'm asking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start first with the state revenue. At the reconvened session of the General Assembly, a decision was made that they were going to pretty much hold us harmless or give us our money for direct entitlements. The difference here in the state revenue will come in the form of lottery money and sales tax. We're expecting less sales taxes to be received on the months of May and June. Now, I would also like to share with you that we receive our sales tax money on a 2-month delay. So the sales tax that we receive, let's take for instance, in May, were actually sales tax receipts for the month of March. So we have received May's receipts, which is for the month of March, which was approximately $3 million. Now we should be getting some information this week or next week, what we will receive for the month of June, which will be April sales. So that is what we really have to monitor, is just to see how much money we will be receiving in sales tax revenue. In the month, we were actually received June sales in the month of August, but we have to accrue that back to this fiscal year. The other unknown is lottery monies. They're not certain as to whether lottery funds will be coming in as projected. So what they will be doing is they will be prorating the per pupil dollar amount for lottery money should the funds do not meet what they are projecting it to be. And here again, we will not know that number until a little later in this month. So outside of those two unknowns, the rest of the sale of the state money is going to be pretty much intact. We just don't know what the final number will be for lottery and the final receipts for sales tax. City revenue, we have received all of our city contribution. And federal revenue, we're expecting it to be down maybe $113,000 right now. We are still looking and projecting what the indirect cost will be from the grant side. So right now, like I said, we could be down anywhere from $4 to $7 million in revenue due to sales tax and lottery funds.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ingram.
And how will the expenses impact that? So are we expecting to under execute our budget, over execute it, or is it too difficult to determine at this time?
We will be, on the expenditure side, we will be having less expenditures because, you know, no matter what our budget is, we cannot spend any more than the revenue we actually receive.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have is we have certain savings that we have accumulated this year to offset the reduction in revenue. For instance, we have approximately 250 positions vacant for this year that attributed to approximately $13 million in savings. Also in April the 10th, we instituted a discretionary spending freeze. We suspended travel because of the pandemic, so we saw some savings there. Also with the school closure, we are seeing some savings in our utilities. The fuel for not running the buses every day, we're seeing some savings there. And also in program 510, which is our extra curriculum, where typically we do a lot of SOL remediation and preparation. We are seeing savings there and some savings in summer school as well. So overall, we will be having less expenditures. What we have tracked so far with pandemic, when it started, we set up a special code in our account stream to capture those costs that's due to the pandemic. Now, not everything has been coded there, but what has been coded there so far is approximately $142.6 thousand to cover such things as, printing for the packs that we've had, some transportation and helping with the meals, and paying extra for the employees that when we first got started, everyone got their regular salary. Then plus, if they actually did some work, they got extra for working during that time period. So right now we are projecting that we will be in, I think, pretty good shape at the end of this school year, wherein our expenditures will come in less than the revenue that we will be receiving.
Okay.
And one more specific question.
Ms. Smith, hold on. We're going to move on to another individual because we have definitely exhausted our time. And if we have time, we can possibly come back or someone can yield your time. But I know I see Ms. Basine and I also see Ms. Campson. And I am having difficulty viewing the timer from my viewpoint. So I'm just trying to be courteous to everybody, make sure they get equal time. So we'll go Ms. Basine and then Ms. Campson. Ms. Basine, unmute.
Thank you. I had sent a couple of questions, general questions ahead of the meeting so that you had a heads up on some of my questions. So Ms. Smith had talked about some of the over execution, and my questions were specific to those areas and items that exceeded 100%, and in some cases, well over 100%. And largely it looks like, it's related to technology, non-equipment. Am I understanding the overages and percentage used in those areas correctly, that they are related to our response to virtual learning and other areas due to the pandemic?
Yes, what happened in those instances, I think you'll probably see it in April and in May.
Yes.
In the technology, it was the initiative to purchase technology equipment to assist with virtual learning. But what has transpired in the month of June, since we have access to the CARES Act funding, the additional 12.8 million, I believe, in funding, those expenditures are being moved to the grant, the CARES Act. So when you see your June financial statements, those expenditures will be back to normal.
Okay.
So the expenses were done to get the invoices, the purchase orders in to the vendors such that we can get them in a timely fashion. And then when the money was available for us, we just moved change code.
Okay, so then is this on top of the use of our current inventory? Because I believe previously when asked if we were using our current inventory, this is in addition to our current inventory. Is that correct?
Yes, it's additional purchases.
Additional purchases, okay. And then there were some areas where I didn't quite understand the overages, which was around travel, meals and lodging, registration, and furniture replacements. Does that
Okay, the furniture replacement one is related to the Lake Taylor School K-8 project.
Okay.
There's a redesign of the media center, so that is associated with that piece.
Okay.
In the meals and lodging, there were maybe some line items that may have overspent, but like I said earlier, when we instituted the freeze, money was pulled back out of department's budget that perhaps there were credit card charges that had not hit yet. So you may see where there's a negative in smaller amounts, but if you look at the larger scale, we did see savings in travels on all three of the travels account because travel was suspended.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Campson, go ahead.
Thank you. I thank you, Ms. Ingram, for giving us the information about the city and the state money. I have, looking through the grant things, and I know this is only through March 31st, but a lot of it couldn't be spent after that. And I wonder if these federal grants, especially the title grants, where they are not going to be at the 90% that they need to be by September. What are we doing about that? Or are we getting some extra leeway there?
There was some flexibility with Title I, especially that they did not have to meet the 85% and with the 15% carryover. So there is flexibility for those grants.
So we're okay. That's not a case of having any grab back
Yes,
or
ma'am.
callback of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we move to have a motion on the floor to adopt the monthly financial reports?
Yes, I have
Mr.
questions.
Jordan?
Yes. In following the monthly statements and still trying to understand if we took any gap closure measures in our 2020 budget. Can you explain, you mentioned earlier that we were looking at $13 million in savings from positions that are vacant. I thought at one point we were projecting from the city council that we would have some budget gap for $8 million. I'm not sure what it is. Can you explain, did we and do we have a budget gap in 2020? And if so, how we filled it?
Okay, it's my understanding, I listened to the presentation as well, that there would have been a funding gap for fourth quarter. It is looking at the numbers, and here again, I have not been in the conversation. It appears that they have, well, and looking at the numbers, they have given us our full allocation for 2020. But if you notice in your 2021 budget, there is a reduction of $8 million in local contribution. So it's possible the decision was made to leave us whole for this school year and then deduct this year, what would have been a reduction this year, take the full impact in 2021.
Okay. Dr. Birdsong, can you offer any clarity on that, please?
Yes, I believe they will still be looking at, and I think I shared with this with you a couple of meetings ago. Most likely they are going to try to keep us whole this year, and there's may have to be some changes next year.
Yeah, if we can get just some written clarity around that, because it's still confusing to me as a member whether or not we had a gap and filled it or not. So I think it'd be helpful if we could get that in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. What I'd like to do is have a motion on the floor to adopt the monthly financial reports as presented. And those would include March, April, and May. And, let me just take a step back for a second. Ms. Ingram, you had discussed February, but all I see on board docs is March, April, May, and June.
May I? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I don't mean to cut across you. if you look at what's posted on board docs, we had posted February's report for the March meeting, but the March meeting was canceled.
Right,
So,
okay.
so when you see it saying March, that is for the February reports. April is for the March reports.
Thank you. Okay, so that everybody is good and clear on that. Okay, so motion on the floor then for the adoption of the March, April, and May financial reports as presented.
I move that we adopt the March, April, and May budgets as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Budgets or financial reports?
They are financial reports.
Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. So, second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have some.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, you will have 2 minutes.
I guess at some point, I'd like for if you all could explain what the rules are in terms of these timers, so I can just follow that, because we never really had a chance to discuss those. But just generally speaking, follow up. Sorry, Ms. Campson, but I just don't know the rules. But generally speaking, I still have some concerns. I expressed this during the budget process, that not really having a full understanding of where we are in terms of the current fiscal year and any gaps that we said that we filled and attrition savings that we had from positions that are vacant, and then how that then translated into savings that we are utilizing for the budget that we approved for 2021. So I still have some clarity there, and I just hope that we can get some clarity. It's hard for me to follow what we're receiving in the monthly financial reports in June and follow what we were presented and voted on in terms of the budget for 21. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Ms. Smith?
Yes, my time did not allow the first time, but that's exactly where I was going with my questions. I'd like to understand the same thing. Basically, Mr. Jordan used the term gaps, and I'm not certain what the proper term is, but I'd like to know what will be, how any excess for this year is and will be applied to next year's budget, or if it's already been done. It helps us to understand how resources will be or can be utilized for next year's operations. So I don't have that clear picture at all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Tanner, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan?
Nay.
Martin? Aye. Smith?
No.
Gabriel?
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item 2.03, the resolution of locally awarded verified credits, and there is a vote required. I would like to go ahead and turn this over to Attorney Cloud and Dr. Birdsong.
Good afternoon again, Dr. Gabriel and members of the board. If you recall, I can't recall if it was the last meeting or the meeting before that, Mr. Cloud, Attorney Cloud, presented the board with a resolution that was passed related to the pandemic and policies and regulations. And so we've had a discussion with the board about that. And so under the advisement of Attorney Cloud, we have presented to you a resolution that kind of speaks to locally awarded verified credits. And so Mr. Cloud has been working on that, and he will be presenting that resolution. Mr. Cloud, thank you so much.
Thank you. The resolution is what I sent to the board on May 13th, along with a memo describing the details of it and why going forward with it. In summary, it replaces a possible amendment to the policy, which is IKAFZ, instead making changes that the VDOE recommended just in this resolution. And I drafted the resolution and made that determination after looking at the VDOE's webpage on this, at their guidelines, which I think have been part of the agenda, and also talking to the VSBA's attorney. They did not recommend amending this or any other policy in connection with waivers. However, because of some of the issues the VDOE raised, I thought it would be better to just go ahead and offer this resolution that includes language that the VDOE suggested should be in the, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that sound was, that should be incorporated for those boards that already had a policy in existence, which Norfolk does. And if you look at sections 3 and 4 of the resolution, those incorporate language from the guidelines. And essentially, it's just, I did it out of abundance of caution. In all likelihood, the initial waiver of all policies, to the extent that the state or federal governments or their agencies have waived those requirements, would likely cover this, but this just gives the board a specific resolution referencing the policy and the VDOE advice on it. I've also started numbering these resolutions so we can keep track of them for future reference if issues come up where they have to be referred to as time goes forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. Okay, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. You all are moving the screen around and I'm trying to look at my document at the same time. I didn't think the timer came in until we got into the discussion. The resolution was hard for me to follow. In the second paragraph, the second whereas, where it says the VSBA does not recommend making amendments to any of its policies or their associated regulations. I don't think that's correct. VSBA, as I understand it, does policies, not regulations. So I don't think that's correct. And then where it has, as a result of the temporary waivers granted by the Commonwealth, is that a clarifier for regulations, or is that meant as a clarifier for policies and regulations?
Well, on your first point, regulations wouldn't change unless the policies change. And my statement with regard to the VSBA was based on lengthy conversations with the policy attorney, Elizabeth Ewing. On the second point, as far as regulations go, I included in this essentially the board telling the superintendent that she could go forward and make whatever changes the waiver requires to her regulations, rather than have her make them and then later have to report them to the board.
Yes, I mean, I followed up with the VSBA attorney as well, especially on the regulations piece. And I think that it was confirmed for me that VSBA is dealing with the policies, as we know we receive from them often, and not the regulations piece. So I would recommend that the board consider clarifying that paragraph for Mr. Cloud, you helping the board to clarify that paragraph where it addresses associated regulations, because even going back and reading the resolution that we addressed in May, I don't think that piece was there. And then my last question is in terms of the monitoring of the policy itself. So I know you mentioned where the VDOE recommendation was that that language be placed inside of the policy itself. Mainly, I think, so that if a member of the public went to our policy manual and looked at the policy, they would be able to see what we're doing in terms of this current school year, the next current school year. If we have it in this form of the resolution only, then how would somebody who was looking at a policy manual be able to note or understand the impact of what we're doing in this resolution?
Dr. Gabriel, I'll go ahead and respond to Mr. Jordan if that's okay.
Yes, you can respond to Mr. Jordan, then I'll have a follow-up item. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I can be very brief. I'm happy to amend the resolution in any fashion that a majority of the board asks for. I don't think the amendments are necessary. The resolution itself is, of course, a public document available to the public and is posted currently in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. Mr. Clanton?
Yeah, my comments are directly related to the statement that Mr. Jordan made. And I've been reading, I was listening to you trying to comprehend where you were going with it. And when I read this, the SBA does not recommend making amendments to any of its policies. And they do give us policies.
Correct.
Or their associated regulations, and regulations are located at the locality with the local school board. So when I read that, I read their policy that's been sent to us as a recommendation that we may have implemented. However, we have associated regulations at the local level. So don't make any changes to their policies that they've sent to us or the regulations that we have here at the local level. So based on that hearing and kind of comprehension for myself, I don't think that we need to make an amendment to the resolution that's being presented.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's saying exactly what it needs to say.
Okay. All right. Unless I hear a motion to amend the resolution, then we are going to proceed with the roll call. Okay, Ms. Tanner, please proceed with the roll call.
Yes, Basine.
Nay.
Say that one more time.
Nay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clear now. I need you to turn towards the camera. Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Nay.
okay, Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 2.04, resolution of employee accumulation of annual leave. Mr. Cloud and Mr. Billups.
Mr. Billups, do you want to make the presentation and then I can answer any legal questions in connection?
Certainly. School Board Chairman, Dr. Gabriel, Vice Chair, Mr. Clanton, school board members, good evening. What you have before you this afternoon is a resolution regarding employee vacation limits. Each year, what happens is any employee who accumulates annual leave, who has more than 200 hours left on the books, what happens is the time that's left over gets converted. For every 2 days that they had a vacation, it gets converted back to 1 day of sick leave. This year, what we're proposing, since employees, we were on telework status since March, what we've recognized is that many employees basically ceased taking any vacation time or reporting any vacation time. So in working closely with Mr. Bailey, what we realized is that as of June 5th, which was the last day in which vacation accruals were posted, we had 840 employees who are entitled to vacation, and 305 of them were currently over their two-year limit. So as a gesture, what we are proposing is that instead of converting employees' vacation time this year over the 200 hours to the 2 days of vacation for 1 day of sick, what we're proposing, because of the limitations of the of the pandemic on individuals taking vacation time, we're proposing that for the upcoming school year 2021, that we don't take, any vacation time from them and just allow them to continue to accumulate that time. And then next year for the 21-22 school year, return back to the provision in which the vacation time is converted back over for any hours over 200.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Billups. Ms. Smith.
Mr. Billups, what are the budget implications of this decision?
Basically, by accumulating into the sick leave, basically individuals only get sick leave once they actually retire, and then because the vacation time is taken over not all at once anyway, it's just taken whenever individuals decide to take it. So it's spread out. I don't know the actual numbers, what it would be, but it's of course spread out over the time that an individual would actually take vacation.
Mr. Billups, can I just ask you a couple questions just to kind of explain this? I believe that what happens when the cap is imposed, which as I understand it will be July 1, if the policy isn't waived, the accumulated annual leave that is above the limit is not purely lost, it is rolled over into sick leave. Is that correct?
It's rolled over into sick leave, but it's rolled over in what is called a 2-for-1. For every day of every 2 days of vacation would be converted to 1 day of sick leave.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Basine?
This resolution, similar to what Mr. Jordan raised in the locally verified credits resolution, I also object to that portion of the resolution, which uses the same language regarding the policies and their associated regulations, especially if this policy may be in effect throughout the next school year and possibly into the subsequent school year.
Okay. All right.
If I could just add on that, the regulation more or less mirrors the language of the policy with regard to the cap. So if the regulation is not waived, then the employees will lose their accumulated leave according to the rule of 2-for-1, as Mr. Billups explained, on July 1. So unless the board waives both, the resolution essentially will be ineffective.
Right. And to be clear, I'm not objecting to waiving both. I guess I don't interpret that language that way, which is my issue. I don't know what that is, but what that sound is, but I don't know if you heard me.
Yes, we understand.
Okay.
Anyone else with a comment? Okay, Ms.
I'd like to offer to Ms. Smith, if I may, Dr. Gabriel. So what would happen, Ms. Smith, generally when staff, when they retire, if they haven't used all of their vacation leave and they qualify for that, there's usually a payout of that. And so that would be the financial implication, so that basically this year we're just asking that staff not lose that leave because essentially they weren't able to take it. So for morale, we thought it would be a good gesture.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a good gesture, but I also believe that the carryover, how do I want to say this? When the leave is taken, that expenditure is occurring in a fiscal year different from when it was accrued, if I follow what's happening correctly.
So employees rate, 12-month employees rate a certain amount of sick leave. And so again, if you retire before you use all of your sick leave, you're paid out for the amount that you still have on the books. And so, but our policy right now, it limits the amount you're able to carry over.
Mhm.
So if you exceed the limit, then you just, those days convert back to the ratio that Mr. Phillips described, back to sick leave.
Mhm.
Yeah, that part's not my concern, but thank you.
Dr. Birdsong, it certainly sounds like you were trying to make a good decision on an item that employees were not able to take vacation due to the pandemic, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. Can I have a motion on the floor to accept the resolution of employee accumulation of annual leave?
I move to accept the resolution of employees' accumulation of annual leave.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Aye.
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. The next item that we have on our agenda tonight is, and I see we have Faith and Charity. Did we lose Charity?
Yes,
Okay.
Charity's there.
Charity. Okay. Oh, I see you, Charity, now. Is our school board representatives. And so without further ado, Dr. Birdsong.
Good afternoon again. We are very excited today to honor and celebrate two wonderful young women who we are just so proud of. Faith Handley has served as our school board student representative, and Miss Charity Warren has served as our alternate. And today we wanted them to be allowed some time to speak to the community and to the board about their experiences this year. And we just wanted to celebrate and honor them and recognize them for their hard work. And we just truly appreciated their service on the board this year. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Miss Faith, please. I call her Miss Faith. I'm trying to call her Miss Handley. So Faith, please.
Can everybody hear me? Just to make sure. Okay, good. First, I would just like to say hello, everybody. I missed seeing your faces and hearing your voices. It's so nice to just see everybody again, even if it's on my computer. So first thing, I understand right now for students that are watching that you're either really enjoying the quarantine because it's an early summer vacation, or you're really missing going to class, seeing your friends, seeing your teachers, your coaches and everything. But it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to go back to school. You're going to go off to college or trade school or the military, whatever you decide to do after high school. Everything's going to be okay. Parents, this may be the only time you'll hear your child or children say, I miss school. So enjoy it while you can. The reality of those words, I miss school, is such a shocker. Like, I hear my friends say it all the time. Like, I never thought I would hear myself say that, especially in this time. It's really scary. No one knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Well, we may not go back to the lives that we once lived, but we'll go back to a normal life. This is a time to learn, to grow, to learn about ourselves, our families, our community. This is a great time to come together and work together and make sure that we beat Corona. Freshmen, I am so sorry that your first year ended like this. High school isn't like this, trust me, but your next 3 years are not going to be the same. Definitely going to be different, definitely going to be more influenced at this time right now. Seniors, I'm really sorry you had to miss graduation. I am so sorry that big milestone, that big step in your life ended like this. Prom, I know you guys are really excited to get dressed up, go out with your friends. I'm so sorry you had to miss that. I had a lot of friends, like, really just, they did like at-home prom pictures, so they improvised. I'm so sorry your last year of school, public school, ended like this. You didn't expect it, none of us did. As student representative, there's a lot of things I learned. I learned how to listen. I learned how to hear and listen and comprehend. I learned how to just not say anything, just listen and hear what people wanted to say. I learned that my generation their voice is so loud. They have so much to say, and the school board is there. They have so much to say, and the school board is there to listen. I'm just so proud to say that of my generation. Like we need an important form of representation, and this city, this wonderful city, has it. Which my seat, they're able to listen. They're willing to listen. We are willing. We want to hear these young adults talk to us and work with us to improve not only their school but their city, their community, their state. And lastly, I do want to touch on my generation and Charity's generation, their potential to change the world. The tragedy of George Floyd shook the nation, to say the least. It really did wake a lot of us up to realize that there is room to change. There's a lot of room to improve. There's a saying that we all know: those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. And being on the school board, the best way to make change is to educate. We need to improve the education system so we're producing students that have voices and that want to go out and make change. And so we don't have history repeating itself. We don't have the negative side of history repeating itself. If we don't know our history, every bit of it, including the terrible tragedies that have occurred, devastating actions and mistakes will be repeated, and unrest will persist in the next generation. And we cannot have that happen. A lot of parents who have children want to raise their kids better than they were raised. Well, we have to do that in our schools. We have to teach children so they know more than their parents, and their children will know more than them. So they know our history, good and bad. We have to accept it. We have to accept our mistakes. So they know good and bad, and so they know what's unacceptable within our society. And I am positive that our generation will make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Charity, you want to share some words of wisdom, some reflections with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
I just want to say, like Faith said, I miss you all. I really miss the meetings. I know. But it has really been a whirlwind of a year. Honestly, if anybody would have told me that this was going to happen, I probably would have laughed at it and brushed it off. But now look at us. We've lately I've been thinking about what I wish somebody would have told me before all this started. And the only thing that I can come up with is that I wish somebody would have told me to get ready. Get ready to work alone, get ready to teach yourself, get ready to change your lifestyle. And now all I want to tell my fellow students is to stay ready. Stay ready for the possibility that all things might not go your way. Stay ready to push yourself to new limits, to train your mind. Always be ready to elevate, because any given moment is a chance to learn about yourself and become better. And to my fellow 2020 graduates, I want to say congratulations. I hope we all continue to persevere. We learned a lot about ourselves, this world, what we value, and what goals we have. But what I admire most about my class is that our focus and our determination. We were thrown something that none of us could have seen coming and found new, innovative ways to overcome. We didn't let it beat us down. We stayed consistent. We endured. And our journeys are something to be recognized, and we are all forces to be reckoned with. And I wanted to say this to my community, especially the Black community. Yes, we are all so outraged as we watch the videos of the unwarranted violence against our brothers and sisters that has gone unpunished. Being angry, frustrated, and fed up is a natural result. But we must work to affect change. As the next generation of leaders, we, the class of 2020, must fight prejudice and injustice with purpose. Please continue to vote. Vote to end the systematic racism that plagues this country. Vote for civil rights, human rights. Vote because now is the time for change. Be advocates for your brother, your sister, your community, and yourself. Be activists, speak out against the injustices that Black people and people of color face. 2020 is the year of vision. And with vision, you don't just see the good things and the bright futures. You see the problems that we need to fix. With vision comes ingenuity, innovation, and creativity. We see the tragedies of this world and we know that we can't unsee it or forget it. We have to act now, plan now, sow these seeds so that we may experience a world that is kinder and more just. Again, I want to say congratulations to the graduating class of 2020 and express how much pride I take in the fact that I am a part of such a historic class. To the younger generations, I ask that you please stay consistent in your education and stay focused, set goals and follow through. Before I end, I want to say thank you to the school board. Like Faith said, the school board taught me to listen and to not just listen to hear what they're saying, but to actually understand and comprehend and empathize with them. And before I end, collectively, you have all given me an experience that I will never forget. Being able to witness everything firsthand, having my voice heard, being able to reach the lives of children, all the while preaching the importance of education, all of it is something I won't soon forget. I will continue to pray for the city of Norfolk, its community, and its students. And so thank you for everything.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Mhm. And Dr. Birdsong, I do believe that Ms. Tanner has something that she would like to show to our representatives.
She does. Ms. Tanner.
Yes, we have
Oh
beautiful,
my goodness.
and also we have one for charity.
Oh my goodness.
And it reads, with sincere appreciation for your service as the City of Norfolk School Board student representatives during the 2019-20 school year. And not only do we have plaques for you, but we also have medals for you.
Wow.
Could award them during graduation.
Oh,
and make sure that you get these 2 items in recognition of your service to the school board. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to open the floor up to my colleagues if they would like to offer any reflective moments to our wonderful student representatives. Okay. Anyone? Ms.
I'll
Martin?
say real quick, you both touched on a very important point, and it's when you're young and you're ambitious and you want to get out there and conquer the world. And I see that in both of you, and it's an amazing thing. And I hope that carries on for the rest of your life. But it is important because we are such a diverse community, we're such a diverse world, that you can't just judge people, by looking at them. You really do have to stop and listen, and you will, the old adage that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You really do need to learn that, and remind yourself. We all struggle with it, but I just I see you guys, just so ambitious, and you're going to do such amazing things, and I can't wait to follow you and your careers and your education. But there, especially when you go on to college and whatever else you'll be doing after this experience, you're going to meet people that are going to have an amazing experiences just like you have. And it is just, I cannot stress enough, so important to really listen and learn from them. And that is something that, it's like a gift we give each other, is to take a piece of, learn from other people and take that with us on our journeys as well. So thank you so much for all you've done for the school board this year. And it's been really great to get to know you. So good luck.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Martin. Mr. Jordan, and then Ms. Basine.
Yeah, just wanted to say to Faith and Charity, you all did an excellent job. I was on a meeting, with Zoom Monday with the African American Heritage Education Commission, and the members and others were still raving about the student panel at Norfolk State that both of you participated in, how that was the greatest panel and session that we had so far as part of our work. You all were excellent there. You were excellent with your participation at the VSBA Student Representative Conference that we had during our annual convention. You were excellent there. You were excellent in your planning work that you were doing with the Norfolk Council of PTAs, your individual work with the NAACP and at your individual high schools and all the other activities that you've been involved with and in. Really appreciate the advice that you all have given to me as an individual board member, and being able to hear your voice and your perspectives from the work and research that you've done with your peers all across the city. Wish you great success and wish you well. And don't forget us as you move on. Sound like Charity was wishing Norfolk goodbye, but we know you're still, this is still your home, and we look forward to you all contributing to the greatness of Norfolk, whether you come back here and do that or whether you do it from afar. But both of you were excellent, and just thank you for your service to the school board.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Ms. Basine?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to say congratulations to the both of you for completing this unprecedented senior year, as you said. And I am sorry that you didn't get to finish your full year on as our school board representative either. But you sure packed it in any which way that you could. And I'm so grateful for that and for both of you. I remember the very first meeting that you both came to, and you came to the very first meeting after you were sworn in, and I think actually before you were sworn in, and you jumped right in with suggestions, just a regular team member of the board. And I was so excited to have both of your input, which our student voice is so valuable. So I'm excited. I have no doubt you are going to accomplish amazing things in your future. And I look forward to hearing all about it in the years to come. So I wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for all that you've done for our students and our school division.
Thank you, Ms. Basine. Mrs. Smith?
Yeah, I just want to wish both ladies well in your future endeavors. You certainly display exceptional decorum in your position as leaders on the school board. And I just see you guys doing great things in the future, in college, the workforce, your community, whatever you all choose to do. I just believe it's going to be great. So don't lose that tenacity that you have. Keep it going. And in all of it, just remember to continue to give back.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Clanton?
Thank you. Congratulations to you all both. And I don't think I heard where you guys were going. So Faith, where are you headed?
I'm actually going to TCC to get my associates, and then I'll be meeting up with Charity at UVA.
Right.
I'm attending UVA in the fall.
Great. So congratulations to both of you all. You have definitely been an asset to this board, and being able to just listen when you guys pull us to the side. Have you thought about this? Or, just giving your perspective. And that's what a school board student representative has to do. And you guys have been out there in the community and bringing back the concerns from your student populations from various areas. So thank you for being a great example and representation, and taking that bar higher every year. The student representatives have gotten better and better and better. And so we'll see who's going to come in next after you. Might be a tough bar to fill, but congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clanton. Ms. Campson?
Well, it's been quite a year for the two of you, all of us. The pandemic has certainly changed so much of how your senior year would have been, but those things will pass. Right now, we have a movement going on in our country, and it's your generation's turn to make the changes that are going to happen in our country in the years that come. Other generations have had that privilege to do that, not all of them, but many have, but this one is a big one. And so I would urge you as you move out into adulthood to grab the moment Don't let this particular movement end without you being a part of it. It'll be something that you'll always know, because this will be your opportunity to change the world. So go forth, ladies, and make a difference for us all. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you very much, Ms. Campson. And to Faith and Charity, I am so excited for what your future holds. You all have demonstrated excellent leadership for your student representatives as the representatives on the school board. I truly have valued your opinions, your questions, even when we didn't necessarily reach out to you, which we're learning this process, you certainly reached out to us. And I thank you for that. Sometimes as the adults in the room, we try to incorporate the viewpoint of the student, but you all really bring it home to us. And I think that that came out in several discussions that we had. To both of you, I will leave you with a quote. Too much is given, much is expected. You all have been given a very distinct honor to serve on the board. You have witnessed leadership, policy, governance, decision-making, and action. You are also witnessing the actions that occur after a decision is made. And I think that it is good for you all to think about it. And one day when you are our age, you'll look back and say, well, I remember when I was in this position and what happened. And I hope that you learn from it. That's what wisdom is about. Both of you all are truly smart, but with time comes wisdom. And use this opportunity that you have been given as a point of reflective wisdom. I know that you all are going to do fantastic things. And I would just say that when I was a graduating senior in 1998, I did not think that I would come back to be a school board member and not even the chair. I probably didn't even know a lot about what the school board did at that time. But here I am, and I'm very proud to be leading our division. And I hope that one of you or both think about serving. You think about your career on the road. So with that being said, the time limit, wish you all the best and stay in touch. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead then and move on. Oh, and so the other board members know traditionally, we normally vote on our school board representatives for the final year during this time, but with everything going on, we're going to have that for the business meeting in July. So our new school board reps will have, we will be taking a vote and action on that in July. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes, item 2.06. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 25th, May 6th, and 27th meeting?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the March 4th, 11th, and 25th, and May 6th and 27th minutes as presented.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clanton. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second by Ms. Campson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing that there is none, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
And Gabriel.
Aye, thank you. The motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item 2.07, vote on the superintendent's designee, Dr. Birdsong.
Yes, Dr. Gabriel, Mr. Clanton, members of the board, I respectfully request that you authorize Dr. James Pohl, the newly appointed Chief Academic Officer, to sign all VDOE reports, documents, requisitions, and other official correspondence in my absence, effective July 1, 2020.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birdsong. Is there a motion on the floor as shared by Dr. Birdsong?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation as her designee as Dr. Paul.
I'll
Effective
second.
July 1, right?
That is correct.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? That there's none. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Aye.
Campson,
Aye.
Blanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. We will now take an opportunity to go into our closed session, item 2.08. May I have a motion on the floor to enter into closed session?
I move to enter into closed session.
Second.
Ms. Tanner, if you could please read the motion.
Move that members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for employment and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees, etc., of the Norfolk Public Schools pursuant to subsection 1 of the above cited code section. The subject of this portion of the session will be the personnel docket of this day and discussion of disciplinary matters concerning specific employees. B, consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members concerning actual or probable litigation or specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsection 7 and 8 of the above cited code section. The subjects of this portion of the session are briefing by staff and consultation with counsel concerning the matters identified above. Basine? She's on mute.
Aye, sorry.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we'll see everybody in closed session. I'd like to have a motion to come out of closed session.
Madam Chair, I move that we come out of closed session.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
Campson?
Here.
Clanton?
Aye.
We reading the resolution?
We're voting.
Are we
on
doing the resolution? Or
Oh,
we
I'm
just
sorry.
Two.
Go ahead. Ms. Tanner, you could read the resolution.
Caught you.
All right, we're trying to keep things moving, but right.
Okay, a resolution certifying the executive meeting of the school board of the city of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, whereas the school board of the city of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board of the city of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore it be resolved that the school board of the city of Norfolk hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board of the city of Norfolk. Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. I would like to move ahead with approval of personnel docket A. Is there a motion to approve personnel item A? Again, this is our personnel docket.
Madam Chair, I move. Go ahead.
I move to approve personnel docket A.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye, thank you. Can I have a motion on the floor to approve the supplemental docket with the modification?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the supplemental docket as modified.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Abstain?
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Ms. Basine, I think item number 3 is
think-
the item that you want to abstain on. So would you like to
Okay.
change your vote?
Yes, I would. Sorry. Aye.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought that you had wanted to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, Ms. Tanner, and I think you need to call my name.
I'm sorry, Gabriel.
Aye, thanks. Okay, and then personnel item C.
I move to adopt personnel item C.
Okay. Is there a second? Hello, is there a second, anyone? Personnel item C?
Which
Second.
one is that? That's the one where we took
Second.
Clanton,
someone out, right?
Thank you. This,
Second.
what we're voting on right now is the one individual, okay?
Thank
This is
you.
the one
Thank you.
individual, okay? So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Abstain?
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Nay.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. So the last items that we have on the agenda, and I thank you all again for allowing us to add these items. This would be item 4.02. Dr. Birdsong's request for an amendment to the 2019-2020 academic calendar year. Is there a motion on the floor to adopt the proposed calendar change to honor June 19th as Juneteenth state holiday?
Oh, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I move to adopt the superintendent's recommendation to observe June 19th or Juneteenth this Friday as a state holiday, whereby Norfolk Public Schools will be closed.
I second.
Okay. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Just one point of clarity. So the recommendation is for it to be a paid holiday this coming Friday. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I'll take a friendly amendment to add that in there, that it's a paid
Yeah.
holiday.
And for those under contract,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Is there, seeing that there is no further discussion, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Aye.
Campson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye. Thank you. Item 4.03, the VSBA resolution on racial justice in school board education. Mr. Clanton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The resolution before the board for consideration, it states as follows. Whereas members of the Norfolk City School Board, as well as Norfolk Public Schools staff, are saddened and outraged by recent events that discriminate, the prejudice and injustice that persist in our country. Whereas racism and hate have no place in our schools or our society, and we must protect the constitutional rights of every person who lives, works, and learns in our community. Whereas we cannot be silent, we urgently must act to stop the racial injustices and harms that anguishes Black people who are our family, friends, neighbors, students, staff members, and fellow Americans. Whereas we must listen. Those who have endured discrimination and intolerance deserve to be heard as they share their stories and truths about their experiences and feelings. And we must seek with great empathy to understand their challenges and their pain. Whereas we must learn. It is time to engage our community in meaningful and honest conversation about racial inequality, to build alliances with those committed to justice for all, and to work together to support our school, our shared conviction that racism must end. Whereas we must lead, each of us individually and collectively is responsible for creating and nurturing an anti-racist learning environment where every child is respected and valued for who they are, regardless of their skin color. We must actively acknowledge, address, and prevent racial bias that occurs as a result of division policies, practices, and actions. And whereas we must do better, our school division can be and will be a sanctuary of safety in our community and a beacon of light in the world as we build and strengthen trust with those we serve and we model the acceptance of all people. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Norfolk City School Board, stand steadfast in our commitment to foster an inclusive educational environment where every student, teacher, support professional, parent, and community member is treated with dignity and respect, as well as our commitment to continue fighting for racial justice and human and civil rights for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Just one thing, as a contributor to the resolution, does anyone have any objection to me voting on the resolution? Okay, all right. Thank you.
No, I would, is there anybody else that has any other discussion points for the resolution? Matters of discussion? Okay, I would like to add some comments to this. And this, again, ties in with the announcement by Dr. Birdsong, as well as Mr. Clanton. And Ms. Tanner, please feel free to put the timer on me because this is discussion time. I wanted to address an important issue collaboratively with you all. As we are all aware, across our country, there have been meaningful conversations taking place about issues of race and equity, and the need for solidarity and a commitment to addressing America's very painful past. These conversations have also become pointed and actionable at the local level. And indeed, we have seen some of the immediate action with removal of some of the Confederate statues here in our own city and in our neighbors at Portsmouth. I believe that each and every one of us is committed to advancing excellence and equity in Norfolk Public Schools. And we all know that that can happen if the bravery to commit to candid conversations and courageous problem solving is there and upon us. One such conversation, as it ties into directly to this resolution, that I do feel that the board needs to be prepared to have is Norfolk Public Schools' own ties to our history. And that is that we have some schools that have names that harken back to Confederate alliances. We can all agree that this is an issue that deserves our collective examination, that the question before us is, how do we evaluate this? How do we examine it? And I do have some ideas that I would like to share with you all, and I very much so welcome your thoughts. The board has an ideal time ahead of us at our July 14th governance training. The framework of that training is around equity, and I think that that would be an appropriate time to begin this conversation and talk about what would this process look like. I would hope that we can commit to developing this process. This would not be a conversation that would be isolated to the board, but would also be one that we would include our stakeholders in. It would be a big undertaking. And so I just say that in the framework of this resolution with our upcoming board training, I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. For if there's going to be change with this, it is going to be change that ultimately is made by the board. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Tanner, if you could please call the roll.
Basine,
Aye.
Sampson,
Aye.
Clanton,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
and Gabriel.
Thank you very much. The resolution passes. The last item that we have on the agenda at Mr. Jordan's request is matters of the board. For the sake of time, we are at 7:04. I will allow the 2 minutes for matters of the board. Mr. Jordan?
Yes, thank you. First thing, we opened up the meeting today with basically having the opportunity to take a draft agenda, get input from the governance team, and then act on the agenda. I think that's a process we should be using every business meeting at least, but every meeting going forward. Second thing is I've shared several times my concerns about our policies not being updated over the last several months. This is our last business meeting for this school year. We're going into the new year, July 1. I would like to see us have some type of clarification discussion around what our actions are going to be to bring our policies up to date as soon as possible. We spent several years trying to get to the point where we wouldn't have this great lag time with our policies. And since we all know we govern through policies, I think it's extremely important that we take very appropriate action as soon as possible to bring our policies up to date. And then the last item is the timer. So in our retreat, I just learned that we're going to be talking about equity in our retreat. I think it's important that we also have an opportunity to discuss what our rules are going to be and that we adopt those rules and that we follow those rules and have clarity around it, as well as our policies overall. So those are the three things I wanted to bring up at this time, and thank you for allowing me to do so.
Mhm.
Ms. Basine?
Yes. So I agree with Mr. Jordan and have similar requests on my list of matters of the board. I do think that the policy committee and the policy work needs to be a priority as we head into July. I sent an email about, you so eloquently talked about addressing some relics that are rooted in structural and institutional racism. And I think that we also have to take a deep look at our data and our practices as it relates to discipline. I sent an email to you all about that, and I would like for that to be a topic of discussion as soon as we can have that discussion, perhaps at the retreat in July. I too want to talk about our rules around discussion, having the opportunity for discussion in a holistic way, so that we have the benefit of hearing each other's questions and concerns. And I think there's great benefit to hearing what each other have to bring to the table. So with the timer has certainly seemed prohibitive of that. And right now those are my pressing concerns.
All right, Mr. Clanton?
Thank you. I'll wait for the timer.
Thank you. Because we have to shift and get the people.
All right, thank you. I just want to point out that we are at the end of another school year, and we're about to enter into another one. And I agree in the respect of when we get to our board retreat, that it's an opportunity for us to have a collective holistic discussion about how we're going to operate for the coming year. I would also point out that I don't want board norms and protocols and standing rules to be confused with equity, because they're not the same thing. It's how we govern ourselves to get the work done. And I also want to remind my colleagues that even in our board governance, there's the work that happens during the meeting, after the meeting, and preparing for the meeting. And I'm going to challenge myself and I'll take the first steps because I can't ask anybody else to do that. And that's to pick up the phone more and to share thoughts and opinions with one another so that we are being respectful of the time of our community when they're watching these meetings and that we can come in and execute. We shouldn't be doing committee work during a business meeting when we should be taking care of action. So I just want to challenge, and I'll begin with myself, that we communicate more and that we share ideas and to be respectful for it, but that we also look at leaving our retreat, all of us being there in July, with knowing how we're going to operate and govern ourselves, and that we follow that for the coming year. But thank you all, and look forward for another year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. And anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. So the next meeting times that we have will be for the July retreat. Again, those dates are, as we've had them for quite a while now, July 13th and 14th. And then we have our school board meeting on the 15th. And whether that retreat will take place in person or over Zoom will be dependent upon the governor's action. So please stay tuned for that, and we will follow up with you. Meeting is adjourned.
A couple hands.
Yeah, there's a couple hands.
Tanya's first.
Okay. Okay. Is this a question related to the training?
It is related to the training.
Okay. Real quick, go ahead.
Who's conducting the training? Is that a VSBA?
No, it is not.
Can you share a little more about what
I'd be happy to do that offline, not right now during our meeting, as it's not an agenda item.
Okay.
We discuss matters of the board, but I'm happy to discuss
But
that.
don't we collectively, I believe that the board collectively determines that. At least since I've been on the board, we've collectively determined that.
In the past, what has happened is the board has engaged with a entity for the governance training.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have gone about the superintendent, the chair, and that entity has discussed what the training is going to be. And so Dr. Birdsong is working on that entity as we speak.
Yeah, just to add to that. So as a board, we first agreed we wanted to do governance training. Then we had collective discussion around who we would consider as governance training. We then voted on that, especially if it was an RFP process, and the entire governance team, the board and the superintendent together, always worked through that process.
Right.
And I understand that, Mr. Jordan, and believe me, it has definitely been on our minds through agenda planning, but in the scope of pandemic and getting students technology and feeding students and everything that goes with it, I'm sure that Dr. Birdsong has tried to prioritize and triage what is of highest importance. So it's not a matter that she has not addressed and has not been on my great attention. But again, as we all think about the circumstances that we have been through over the past 3 months, there will be an entity that will be coming together. We just do not have all the final details on that yet. And yes, the board can come together and make that decision.
Just to be clear, I was not addressing my concerns to Dr. Birdsong. As chair of the board, I was addressing it to my fellow colleagues as the board.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
And okay.
All right. Okay.
I think Adele had
to respond, can I just say something quickly about that? It was just to respond to that is that I had made some suggestions on things that I would like to see us or hear us to talk about, and it is really centered around equity and looking at how really making some movement on that, but also some continuation of our implicit bias training to really help us through that process. So I had made that recommendation, but also as far as scheduling, my initial question was I really need to know what times, what the start and end times for the training will be on that Monday and Tuesday, please.
Sure, we can get that out to everybody. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your feedback and for your time this evening. And I call this meeting adjourned.